just want to acknowledge that I'm currently seated on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded land of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations. I know that many of you are on the land of other nations, so if you'd like, please feel free to write those nation names in the chat. Always let us remember our connection to our siblings in these nations and pray for the day in which we might be together in right relationship. Welcome. Welcome to Living Interfaith. Know that the whole of you is welcome here. You're not asked to leave who you are in your own homes. Please bring who you are in with you to this community today. But what you are asked to remember is that the others here today have brought who they are into this community with them as well. And all of goodwill are welcome. And now we're going to join together for our opening song.
Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of living, ours is no caravan of despair. Come, yet again, come. Come, whoever you are, though you've broken your vows 1,000 times, though you've broken your vows 1,000 times, come yet again, come, whoever you are, though you've broken your vows 1,000 times, though you've broken your vows 1,000 times, come yet again, come.
Thanks so much, everyone. So I'm excited to share a few announcements with you. Next Sunday, June 9th, there's going to be an interfaith water ceremony organized by the Tsleil-Waututh Nation Sacred Trust and involving a variety of spiritual communities. So Doralee and I are actually going to be participating to represent the Living Interfaith Sanctuary, and everyone is invited to attend. After the water ceremony, which will involve participants praying both out on the water in canoes and on the beach around a fire, there will be a lunch and teachings from various spiritual communities. Doralee is going to share a talk on the spiritual meaning of water. And the event starts at 8:30 a.m. with the ceremony at Kate's Park in North Vancouver, and it goes to 2:30 p.m. So I'm going to put the registration link in the chat for you. And the second event I'd like to share today is that on Thursday, June 13th, from 7 to 9 p.m., authors Jeffrey Wilkinson and Raja Khoury will discuss their recently published book, The Wall Between: What Jews and Palestinians Don't Want to Know About Each Other. This event will take place at St. Anselm's Anglican Church in Vancouver, and there's a $10 fee. You can purchase tickets at the link I'm going to put in the chat now. And does anybody else have any announcements they'd like to share with us today?
Yeah, it's Rebecca. Tomorrow, the choir at Seattle First Baptist Church, the choir I sing in, is doing a free concert to benefit the World Central Kitchen. They provide food and meals all around the world. Anyway, it starts at 1 o'clock, and any donations are going to go toward the World Central Kitchen. But the music is going to be wonderful, and anybody in this area, if you would like to come, that would be great.
Thank you so much, Rebecca. Okay, so if there are no other announcements this morning.
I have one.
Yes, go ahead.
There's a Pause and Pride dog walk in Bellevue, California today from 9:30 to 1, and I might go to check it out, and it's free.
And what is that event? What happens there?
So, well, it might have to do with Pride. Maybe this is Pride Month. I don't know, but it's Pause, PAWS, Pause and Pride dog walk in Bellevue.
Okay, thank you, Mary. Any other announcements this morning before I move on? Okay. And for our opening prayer today, to honor the Coast Salish peoples on whose land we are currently situated, I'd like to play an arrangement of Chief Dan George's prayer song, which features Gordon Dick of the Tsleil-Waututh Nation playing the drum and singing. So I'm going to play that for us now.
Ho, 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 eh, la, hey, ah, hey, ah, hey.
Hey, welcome back. And so for our candle lighting prayer this morning, I'm now going to read an Inuit prayer song. I think over again my small adventures, my fears, those small ones that seemed so big, for all the vital things I had to get and to reach. And yet there is only one great thing, the only thing, to live to see the great day that dawns and the light that fills the world. So now I'm going to invite all of you to unmute yourselves and greet one another with a sign of peace.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. Good morning,
Good
everyone.
morning.
Peace.
Good morning.
Peace, everyone.
Peace, everyone.
Peace, everyone.
Peace be with you.
Peace.
Peace.
Shalom. Shalom.
Now we'll have another song.
Great Spirit, I long to hear your name. How I long to see your face. Away, I ho, away, I ho, away, I ho. Oh, great Spirit, I long to touch your hands. I long to see your face. Away, I ho, away, I ho, away, I ho. Oh, great Spirit, I long to hear your name. How I long to see your face. Away, I ho, away, I ho, away, I ho. Away, I ho, away, I ho, away, I ho.
Thank you, everyone, for sharing in that beautiful song. And now I'm going to share our joint affirmation, and Dorley is going to lead us in that this morning.
Thank you, Rachel. Let's our hearts share this joint affirmation together.
We come together in peace. We sing together in joy and with love. We worship together in one house, a house with names beyond number. Our paths are many, our beliefs are as leaves, and the tree that we cleave to is nourished by the light of compassion, justice, and mutual respect. May our lives, our beliefs, and our actions help to bring about the world of love we all seek, and let it begin here.
Thank you, Doralee. So now is when we take some time to pray in our own homes and in our own ways. As always, there's a great deal going on in the world. But today, on the first day of National Indigenous History Month, I'd like to express gratitude for the achievements and resilience of the First Nations, Inuit and Métis people on the land we now call Canada and the United States, where I know many of you are situated. I'd like to pray that we don't turn away from our responsibilities to one another for the health of the air, the lands, and the waters, and for the day in which we might all be together in right relationship. Please feel free to pray in silence for whatever's on your hearts this morning. Thank you, everyone. And now we'll join together to sing another song.
Okay.
Sing it with us. May your love be pure like an eagle. Wisdom may under every stone you turn. Let truth be your key to freedom and bind you to the path that holds the light. We're the reason that there's 7 sins and teachings. Each one can wait the other out. Life is 2 wolves, good and evil, who you feeding? Tell me, are you in or are you out? Oh, be honest and honor each other. Don't make a promise that you'll have to break. Have forgiveness when there's only hatred. Stand up for good, for goodness sake. May your mind be vast like the ocean. Salvage the lesson from each storm you survive. Let honesty lead you across the sea, forever keep you on the current that carries the light. And in this world that's growing older faster, humility will keep your spirit young. When you're looking far into the future, don't forget how far you've already come. Here we go. Ooh, ooh, ooh. your strength be abundant, everlasting. Joy bring peace to your life. Surrender your heart to the seven. Keep to the path that holds the light. Let respect be the law by which you're driven. 'Cause respect it ain't given. To our brothers and sisters born with two spirits, may you find the courage to reconcile. 'Cause in this world that's growing older faster, humility will keep your spirit young. When you're looking far into the future, don't forget how far you've already come. Wisdom be under every stone you turn. Let truth be your key to freedom and bind you to the path that holds the light.
Thank you so much, everyone. So now is the time when we invite you to share in making this beautiful community possible. Many of you already donate regularly, and others were kind enough to contribute generously to our recent stewardship campaign, which was very successful. Thank you all so much. And we're very grateful. As most of you know, we rely entirely on donations to pay for our small staff, musicians, and technology, and to bring in wonderful speakers like Leona Brown, who will be sharing with us today. So no amount is too small, and I'm going to go ahead and put our donation link in the chat. Now we're going to come together to sing another song.
From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and with this we live. From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live.
So now it's my honor to introduce today's speaker, Leona Brown. Leona is a Gitxsan and Nisga'a mother of 3 children, of the Fireweed House and the Killerwhale Clan, and an Indigenous independent cultural facilitator. She gained 3 years of training in land and lives around Indigenous culture with the Resurfacing History Program, coordinated by Jolene Andrew, which has become her healing journey. Leona is here today to share her journey with us. So thank you so much for joining us today, Leona. And I'm going to turn it over to you.
Hi, thanks, Rachel. I'm so glad that I'm here today. I'm so grateful to hear the songs. Like the words mean so much in so many different ways of how I'm feeling and how I've been feeling lately with depression, emotion, the craziness in the world, and trying to cope with our own family situations here at home. They do sit with me very well. Thank you for that. I kind of feel like there was a presentation for me in the beginning here. So I'm going to talk about a little bit about myself and my background. And normally I would call this conversation Why We Are the Way We Are. and it's Indigenous month. So I want to share a bit about residential school that from what I know. Not a very huge trigger warning, but it's just a blip on my journey of how I started my own healing journey. So again, it's Leona Brown. I'm Gitxsan through my parents, and I'm Nisga'a through my grandparents. Um, I moved here from Prince Rupert. I lived in Prince Rupert my entire life, and well, until I was in my 20s, and I came to Vancouver and did the 20-year-old thing for 10 years. Um, and then I had my first child when I was 30ish in 2004. And then my mom is feeling sick. She was in an accident, and she wasn't coping through it well, and she had passed away in 2004, 3 months after I gave birth to my first daughter. So I was like very thankful that she got to meet my child and hold her. And then in 2007ish, I think it was, I never grew up with my dad because my dad kind of disowned me as a child. And from the grapevine and in the Gitxsan territory, nobody talks to me there. They don't acknowledge me as family or anything, but one person had shared that he didn't believe that I was his child, which is why he abandoned me with my mom, and my mom left him because of physical abuse. Him and my mother had met in residential school, I believe, in Edmonton residential school. And I guess they got together after, as many people had done after residential school, just so they had that bit of freedom. Started having children, and yeah, my upbringing wasn't very well. It was my mom was pretty much on her own for a while. She went through some grieving and mourning because she had a partner, my younger brother's dad, who had went missing in the waters in Port Edward. He was a logger, and she mourned him till the day she died in 2004. She missed him a lot, and I didn't understand any of that. My upbringing was pretty rough, and I grew up with parents or parent figures that were abandoning us and going out drinking and partying, and I never understood why, but everybody did it, so it kind of felt normal that a lot of us were left home alone. To give you an idea, it's like, I think the youngest I remember being home alone was like 3 years old. My first memory of responsibility, I had a younger brother that's 2 years younger than me, but my first time I remember like adult responsibility, I guess was in 1980. And my mom, I don't remember her being pregnant because a lot of my memories of that have like dissipated. And she had brought home this tiny little baby, and she put it in the room with us, and she left for like a whole week, just disappeared, went on her drinking, and left me with this literal newborn baby. And I did my best to care for this thing. I didn't know what to do. One of the memories that stick with me is that I think a few days later, the umbilical cord was like fully drying out, and it was on his drying out under his diaper. I literally had to learn everything on my own: how to change his diaper, what to feed him. When I changed his diaper a few days later, the cord stuck to his diaper and came off, and it terrified me. I was so scared. I was like walking around the house, and I'm like, how old am I? 7 years old in 1980, and I'm walking around. I'm terrified. My mom, because the physical abuse was discipline for us, and I thought my mom was gonna like murder me or something because this belly button fell off. Um, and she didn't even notice. I never got in any trouble for that. But that's a memory that sticks with me as a child, like having that responsibility so young, and not knowing what to do. And then I think this went on for her for years. She was always an alcoholic, but this situation, our life situation, was like we're living in people's basements. Um, we barely had any food, if any food, most times. My brother and I, that was 2 years younger than me, I had to kind of care for him and bring him to school and be responsible in that sense. And I remember things being so dire sometimes, even after the baby was born. It like we had one loaf of bread in the house and we had to share it and try to make it last. Um, the one loaf of bread between the two of us, and we're just having one slice each every day, and we ran out of the butter. And I remember that we found a lard and put lard on there and a little bit of sugar to make it taste better because we got to eat something. So a lot of my upbringing until I was 12, was pretty much alone with two kids and having that responsibility, and um, in a home that my parents, there was no parenting that was going on. And I never understood why. As I was getting older, I was a typical teen of with the running away, thinking, why are my parents like this? I want different parents. I don't like this situation. So much deeper than that, when the baby was brought home, his father, um, from that point on, started sexually abusing me. Um, so there was another reason, like, why isn't nobody protecting me? Where is my father in this situation? Why doesn't he come and save me? And this went on until the day I left when I was 22. And I had feelings like my mom knew about it. She had to know that it was continuing because I was taken from her care by welfare several times through my teenage years. I tried to call for help and nobody protected me. So when I was 22, I ran, and I had two brothers here in Vancouver that were older than me, and I ran here to live with them. Um, and just started living my freedom, and had my first child in 2004. And I wanted to like break cycles because I was terrified pregnant with my first child, and my first child is a girl, and I'm a girl that grew up with that abuse. And I was terrified. I was scared that, am I going to be able to protect her? Am I going to be able to know if anything's wrong, if somebody's, repeating the cycle with her? Am I going to be able to know and protect her and stand up for her? I was so terrified. And then when she came out, it was instant. I knew I'm going to look after this one, and I'm going to make sure, she knows my history and upbringing, and I would give her a better life than what I had. Um, so 2004, and I guess people were starting talking about truth and reconciliation. 2013, I was pregnant, or between 2010 and 2016, I was in the process of taking my brother's child because he had passed away in July 2010. So I was in the process of getting custody of my niece. And that was a whole big ordeal because going to the court and, the judge accusing me of, because of my partner's history and my son's dad's history, telling me that if I was gonna get an irresponsible partner like that, how can he trust that I would look after this child? And I'm telling him, like, I already have one child. I've had no issues with welfare with this one child. She's like 10, 12 now. And I'm pregnant with my second one. And I told them that we're on a healing journey, and I just felt super judged. unfairly biased, judged by somebody. And I felt like, because I'm Native, so by 2013, Truth and Reconciliation had arrived, and by then both my parents were gone, so I couldn't ask them questions. I couldn't sit and listen with them. My grandparents are already gone. I went to the convention that when it came here in Vancouver, and I listened to some of the elders share their stories. I thought, okay, we'll listen in. And they're not just stories, it's their life experience. And it was horrifying listening to these elder people talk about what happened to them physically, emotionally through residential school. I instantly had forgiveness for both my parents. At that time, I was, a little bit more mature, and I was listening to all these experiences that others had, and I felt like, oh my, that's why we are the way we are. So when I talk about my history like this, that's what I like to title it: Why We Are the Way We Are. I had instant understanding. I remember her telling me when I was younger, she said that she went to residential school, but all she shared was the moment she was taken away. She was young, she was very young, and she remembers, like, she didn't want to go. They're coming into the reservations, they're taking children, and she didn't want to go. And I guess she was a bit of a daddy's girl. So when my dad, or my grandpa, was a preacher in Nuayanch, so he had to let her go, and she was being, I am imagining she's being yanked away. She's telling me they're pulling her away from her dad, and she's trying to claw onto her dad, and she's screaming and crying, "Dad, help me! Dad, I don't want to go! I don't want to go! Dad, help me!" And she's being yanked away, and this image has been stuck in my head this entire time until the Truth and Reconciliation happened. Then it clicked, and I was like, oh my gosh. I had that forgiveness for them, because I understood, like, if you were raised in this situation, how are you expected to raise children of your own if you weren't taught those skills to raise children? You were taught to abuse, ignore, abandon, neglect. You were taught all these bad things, and then you're expected to parent when you have a child. So I immediately understood. I went to the sacred fire and I prayed for them, and I cried, and I even forgave my dad, who didn't want to talk to me on his deathbed because he still believed I wasn't his child. I had so much forgiveness for them, because I was like, it's no wonder you couldn't parent properly, because you weren't taught those skills. And then it started opening, my view to life when I started fighting for custody for my niece. I felt that racism in the system. I felt it from the judge. I felt it that in a way that I couldn't speak up at the court. I started absorbing information from other parents who had issues with welfare and how to speak. I always get a third party, take notes, keep all the papers, and I always go for, this underground information system. It was unbelievable that it was even there, because when I first started out in this system, I was like, oh no, I don't need that. I've had a pretty successful life already. I have one child. I don't think they're gonna, put me through the ringer. I'm not gonna need this. And people had told me these cases with children in the system, or when they feel like you're not a good enough parent, soon as they put you on this list, it goes for 3 years. So many people knew and shared this information amongst each other, that all this information was provided to me. And I'm like, no, it's not going to last 3 years. I'm going to get my kids, and I'm going to show them that I'm a good parent. I never had any problems with my first child. And absolutely almost to the date. It was 3 years that they were in our lives. Um, and then they made it even stricter because my son's dad at the time, he had, some issues with his children before, and in transparency, he did have, 3 jobs, and then his girlfriends, the mothers would leave him with an infant baby, and he has mental health issues of his own. So he hurt his baby. And that information was shared with me. So they took that and they ran with it. So we couldn't even start a relationship. We had plans for him to go on his healing journey, get his mental health in check, and like deal with his anger issues, what is going on, before we moved in together, because we're having a child together. This was planned out. We never got that chance to do it. 3 years, it was too much. We couldn't live together. Every time he came in the house, I had to fight for schedules for him to be in the house 4 days a week, and it had to be supervised for the entire time. So he would come in the house and be here for 4 hours, because I said I want him here to be with the children, have dinner, and then participate in the bedtime part, because he's never really parented himself. So we went through 3 years of that exactly, and then 2 years in, I called for our community advised you to call for a hearing, a trial. And if they have a trial, then they start changing their situation. But it still didn't work out. I still had to fight. It was horrible that I had to do this for 3 years. Our life just torn apart, and we're separated, and all that anger and stuff. We're still learning to communicate to each other. And I'm still trying to deal with truth and reconciliation. How do I break this cycle of anger when we don't agree with each other? It's very hard to do when you're growing up as a child and you're abandoned, and whenever mom was home and we were too loud, or if we did something wrong, we were beaten. We're yelled at, we're screamed at, we're called names. So coming out of that cycle of not even learning how to communicate, and this is the only way you communicate, was very difficult. I'm still going through this journey right now, because my 13-year-old Jessica, who is the one that I adopted, is doing the typical teen stuff and running away, but she really stands up towards me and confronts me most times. And I have to like move her, and she won't move, and she'll do her shutdown phase. It's been really difficult the past few months to learn how to talk to her without anger, because I've learned, like, I guess she's really a lot like me in her stubbornness and what she wants to do in life. And that, to me, it triggers me. And that brings back, memories of my mom yelling and screaming at me. The only way to resolve a situation is that I have to beat you, and I have to yank you around and yell at you and scream at you. So I thought I was being a good parent until she hit those teenage years, and then all this memory and this upbringing, these cycles had come back. And so I'm still working on myself, and I've come to the realization that I'm probably never going to be able to grow up. I'm always going to have to learn to communicate with them differently through their different stages of life. They were different human beings as babies. They're different human beings as toddlers, as children, as teenagers. My oldest is now 19, so I'm learning how to communicate with her differently than when she was a teenager now. But we always try to share our feelings here too, and have that transparency of, I have chronic back pain, and that makes me really angry sometimes when I have to go out and do things. When I'm shopping is a big one, and by the time I get to the cash register, I'm grumpy. And I try to be transparent with my kids if they're with me, and I'm like, hurry up and get this done. Can you just put that in a cart? and I feel my face being like really grumpy looking, and I have to wait till I get home and, calm myself down. And I apologize to my kids. I'm so sorry. I snapped at you. I'm still trying to learn how to cope through this pain. It's not you. It's the pain that I'm dealing with. I can't, communicate effectively when I'm in so much pain. Um, that transparency has to be there for us, because that's not what I got as a child. I never knew why my mom left us alone. I never knew why she never bought us groceries and, kind of abandoned us when she went out drinking. I mean, realistically, I never knew she was always drinking every time she left the house. I just knew that she was gone. So after Truth and Reconciliation, I really wanted to change that cycle for me and my kids, and I wanted my kids to have a better journey ahead of them. And as we're sharing with other groups and Indigenous and talking with the Indigenous elders about our upbringings, we're also sharing knowledge, and they're reminding us that, the trauma that we feel is generational, it's genetic. There's trauma that I have from my mother. There's trauma that I experienced, the abuse, the sexual abuse that I've had. I've transferred that to my child. Um, and I never really thought about that. And that never really clicked in until my teenager was a teen, or my oldest was a teenager, like 14, 15. She really started expressing she didn't like to be around men, teachers, principals, authority. She didn't like it. She wouldn't communicate. She would just be silent. And then I sat and I thought about those moments. I was pregnant with her, and my thoughts of being like, oh my gosh, is she going to be abused too when she grows up? I feel like, learning from my elders, I may have inadvertently passed those thoughts down to her. And I shared that with her as she grew older, 17, 18, that, this is how I felt when I was pregnant with you. So this could be why you feel the way you feel most times, and that you don't really like men. Um, it's not that she doesn't like their personality or anything. She just has this feeling like, oh, I don't want to be around you. I don't want to talk to you. Um, so we shared that. And so a lot of stuff that I've experienced and what I see that they're experiencing, we try to sit down sometimes, and talk about it, um, and share. You may be thinking, why am I feeling this way? And it's not from like any abuse that you don't remember. It's probably the thoughts that I genetically passed down to you. So we try to take care of ourselves and heal from the history that I learned from the residential school system. And I try to understand, like, it's unbelievable that this system still exists today. It exists through the child and welfare system. Um, Hugely racial in this Vancouver city, because they have the Vancouver Aboriginal Child and Family Services, which is where you're directed to. You're put in this box. If any of your children are reported or apprehended, you're sent to VACFAS. And I think that's where my journey of advocacy started in 2013. I decided, like, what am I going to do in this life? I don't have like the typical culture that other people have of dancing and doing art, but I wanted to live my life as an Indigenous person with that identity. And I think in COVID hits, everybody's like on Zoom, and I meet up with the Vancouver Aboriginal, or the Vancouver Urban Food Forest Foundation. And I did some training, as we mentioned earlier, with Jolene Andrew about the medicinal herbs, and it was classified under teas, but I didn't quite get it. I wasn't really into it right away until probably 2020. But I did learn a lot of medicinal tea medicine, and then Truth and Reconciliation, and COVID happens, and that gives me opportunity to sit and think, okay, what am I going to do in this path? I've tried to be an advocate through child and welfare, and sharing information with other parents that are going through the same issues. That wasn't being very successful. But after COVID and I started doing Zooms, I started talking about how I feel that we need to learn our medicines. I felt that was important to me. We need to learn our plant medicines. That's one way to start reconnecting, resurfacing with your own Indigenous history. And I felt it important to me because my daughter at 17 was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis. So we looked to our medicinal medicines to help her through her pains. And that's what really got me started, just my own personal experiences. And Vancouver Urban Food Forest, VUF, had this plan with the Vancouver Parks to create garden spaces under food forests. And they were having problems, getting a space, and they called me in, and I thought maybe this should be Indigenous led, and I could be an advocate in this space and help talk to the Parks Board with you, and the importance of having this food forest. And then it just kind of went its own way. I felt like this is what I'm going to do, is advocate for Indigenous people. And one way of doing this healing and reconciliation for me was the land. We have to get back to the land. We have to understand where we are. How was the land before colonization? And I know if you get back to your plant medicines, we would start living a little bit better life and in healing and getting in your hands into the dirt and stuff. So yeah, it just exploded my advocacy. It just kind of happened. I didn't plan to go this way. I thought, okay, I'm going to be a land steward. We're going to work in the dirt. I never worked in the dirt at all yet, because I was pulled onto the VUF co-creators group and invited to be their advocate. So I get paid honorariums to do that when they need me to. And now because of the advocacy, and I'm trying to explain in every situation, the importance of garden work, the importance of being back to the land, the importance of Indigenous people getting back to their culture, but more importantly, of giving a safe space to be heard. These garden spaces became that healing circle that I wanted to develop and allow people to come in to be heard, to heal, to pray, and just look at the garden if that's all they needed to do. And that just led me into so many different advocacy avenues. Not only do I work with VUF, I work with the Vancouver Food Forest Foundation with not the Vancouver Food Systems, Neighborhood Foods. I can't remember it, but we created a new group called the Vancouver Justice Coalition. And we talk about the importance of Indigenous connection and reconciliation. This path had led me to sitting on the DPAC board of the Vancouver School Board. And I'm in the Indigenous Education Council with the Three Nations and talking about what needs to improve in the schools for Indigenous people. I sit on the city committees with the Vancouver Food Policy Committee, and now I sit with the Urban Indigenous Peoples Advocacy Committee, I believe it's called. So it's interesting work, and I also sit with parks and trying to change policies around Indigenous access to land with the Local Food Systems Action Plan. So it's started with tea plants and possibly opening up gardens to work in and teach people and share knowledge, to now I'm just a full-on advocate and share my story everywhere, my experience and my journey. I also sat with the Single Mothers Alliance for a while. They're called the Center of Family Equity now. And that was a provincial level of advocacy and participating in working groups to, advocate for whatever family needs that there were for those parents on the provincial level. So I had opportunities to talk with like MLAs. And then I think when Ken Sims, that election happened, I ran in that election. I thought if I wanted to change the city and what's happening here, maybe that would be one way to do it. I didn't initially go in right away, which I should have. We did a couple of months of campaigning sort of, but it was very last minute. And my only point around that was to like, I wanted to get out there and get the Indigenous voters to vote because nobody voted. I never even voted very much because I thought, what's the point? We're not going to get enough votes to get the person in there that we need. And are they going to really listen to us? So I wanted to get out there and just get voters to vote, the Indigenous community to vote. And it got up there. So I came in like 6 below the major parties, the number one in independence. So that was okay. And then because I was doing a lot of the debating sessions that happened around the city, and I was already doing advocacy work in the 3 sectors of VSB and parks and the city. I thought maybe this is something I should be taking seriously. So after I lost, kind of stepped on my heart a little bit, but I'm like, okay, maybe Ken Sims will be great because he's Asian and there has to be something good out of this. And turns out from my point of view as an Indigenous person, it's not okay because I was part of the community that worked really hard to advocate for police out of schools. And that was the first thing he put back into the schools, regardless of many of us going on to the council meeting and pleading, no, we don't need this. We're reconciling. We don't want them back in school. This is so much harm that you're doing. We were completely ignored, and he did what he wanted to do. And because he has a majority of council on 3 sectors, I felt defeated because now this hampers the work that I'm doing. I felt like giving up for a while and just like, why even bother? Because they're not going to listen to anything. But I've got some confidence back in being in community, and I was going to run for MLA, but I found that experience very difficult. The Green Party had invited me to be a part of their run because Melanie Mark had dropped out and they were going to do an election for her spot. So I was being vetted through the Green Party, and there was 4 other people, and then it turned out to be just the 2 of us. But I didn't get enough membership or something to get the votes that I needed, so I didn't win that vetting. But through the process of it was like really surprising of how much paperwork you had to do. It was so confusing for an Indigenous person. You don't understand so much of this legal mumble jumble, and like I couldn't even talk, like sign an NDA that I couldn't say that I'm being vetted by Green Party, and who else was being vetted. It just felt like so much control over something that I want to do. And that's when I decided, like, okay, if I'm going to run for anything, I'm going to remain independent because I don't need anybody telling me my platform. So I didn't win. I was going to run in this last MLA, but I was reminded, like, my youngest is only 11, and being an MLA requires you to be in Victoria 4 days a week when they're in session. That's a long time to be away from my son, but they do give you like, help to go there and come back. But I'm like, that would be exhausting going back and forth. or having to homeschool my son. He's only 11. I don't think I can do this yet. Almost was going to sign on again this year because we have elections in October. But I thought, no, I want to cherish this time with my son while he's still 11 and he's still a kid. Maybe at the next round I will. And then I just focused on, oh yeah, Ken Sims. I think I'm gonna run in the next mayor run and take him out because he's not doing anything good. And just having that in my mind of him forcing us to have police back in schools had got me angry. And I'm like, we don't, he's already fundraising his campaign money for the next election. I'm like, you're pretty bold. Um, so I'm uplifted to maybe do that again and run for mayor. I have a lot of allies in the community because I work in so many different spaces. So many people know me. I've done media, news articles, CBC, everything, and I'm pretty certain I'll get pretty close to winning next time, but at least we'll get I think we'll get in more voters this time. So this has been my journey from, where I came from, understanding my parents, not holding that anger in because of the way they were. And I gave them that forgiveness. I give my kids my love, and I'm trying to break cycles with them, and I'm still healing. I still do not control anybody's life. That the lady who mentioned her sister passing, it's her choice, right? It's learning to sit back and let it go. That's yes, it's her choice, and it's really hard and it's difficult because watching my mom in the hospital when she passed was really hard. Having to go and sign the paper to shut the machines off was very difficult. It was a very difficult year or so after. But Elders had reminded me, it's really trying not to focus on the negative, which is why we call it the celebration of life. We want to, if you have the opportunity, like I wish I knew that when she was going to die, I would have had more positive moments with her, and I would have been there all the time with her. And I couldn't. I would have probably asked her a little bit more questions about how was she as a child, share some happy memories of her, my grandpa and everything. But I think if you're facing these situations, it's a healing journey for sure. It's a new experience and it hurts, but it's learning to take that deep breath and accept what you cannot control and accept the journey that you're going to be on. Whether it's experiencing somebody passing, you're losing a job, you have to move out of your house or anything, it's an experience. It can be sad. You have a grieving, acknowledging your feelings and just truly trying to be with yourself and be strong and not fall into those holes of depression. Thinking about anything like me, I've with thinking about my past and the abuse and the neglect, like occasionally, even today, I still fall in those, couple of days of depression because I have to sit and think about, okay, how am I going to cope through this a little bit better? How am I going to move forward with my children like this? And really just praying in myself and being in community for me works, and finding even just that one person to be like, let's go and chat, let's have coffee together, let's chat, and meeting people that just like sit and listen and are open to no matter how long the conversation is. And I give an example of the Indigenous early years at 717 Princess. I signed up for the Family Violence Intervention Program because I've done it before and it's a good program, and I know that these tools will help me again with my teenager being in a group home. It was meant to be like a half an hour intake interview, and they weren't very busy, so they asked me how I felt, and I'm like, I don't know if you have time. And they were like, no, 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 we have time. So we sat and talked with each other about parenting. and it was super amazing. I have chronic back pain, and normally I have to get up and sit up or stand up for a minute. And during that whole conversation that started at 11:30 and we finished at 2, I had no back pain in my back. For the rest of the day, I felt fantastic. And it was all because I was able to share my feelings, my frustrations, and they listened to me and they related to me and they shared, their family troubles with their children. And it just felt fantastic. So I feel like COVID really isolated a lot of us too. So when we're getting back out there, we feel like we don't want to burden people, but I think if you feel it in your gut to share, share. If you're welcome to, no, I got enough time to just share and be honest about yourself. And I think that's one way of, and especially with Indigenous people, is just talking it through. Typically, we would have an elder, grandma or somebody that we talk it out with. And we don't have that these days, and we don't have a lot of connection and community like that. And I want to encourage that more. I too open myself to these conversations, like, because it goes both ways. If you want to connect with me and go have coffee and let's talk for a couple hours, I'm totally open to that too. Because I know we need to be heard when we're in our feelings about things. And that's me. And that was my journey, my healing journey that I'm still on. And I'm grateful to be here. I'm grateful to listen to all the songs and the good words, and seeing your wonderful faces has been fantastic. Thank you. Hamia. Samogat lahak Hamia is Gitxsan for thank you, Creator.
Thank you.
Yeah, Leona, and thank you. That was such a beautiful talk and sharing. So honest and open and vulnerable, and so informative for all of us. I really appreciate your perspective as a parent, especially. I'm not a parent, but I see how hard it is for friends of mine under the best of circumstances, and trying to work with all the systemic racism and the legacy of the Indigenous, of the residential schools. Is just so admirable. I really admire your strength and resilience and courage. So thank you.
Yeah, I think that's a good reminder, as well as if you're not a parent and you have friends that are parents, and you think like, because that separation happens there too. You have single friends that or no children friends, and then you become a parent, and then those friends kind of distance themselves and disappear. I think offering yourself up for coffee is helpful, and it shows like you still care about that person, and you still want to, that gives them that break from their reality, hopefully trying to have a coffee without their kids so like they can take a break. Those opportunities for me didn't come up until my kids were all in school. So it's a good thing to remember for anybody that you see as a parent, to be like, hey, let's go have some coffee sometime, even if it's like once a year or twice a year. It's showing that you care and you want to sit and listen. And maybe they'll just sit there and cry and be like, oh my God, I'm alone. Thank goodness. No kids. I'm having a coffee with an adult.
Yeah, I will take that to heart. Thank you, Leona. So if it's all right with you, some members of our community may want to stay for a few minutes after, and ask some questions. I know some people probably have to go. But we're going to join together in one more song, and then I'll end the service with a closing prayer. So when you're ready, please ensure.
Way, 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 way.
Thank you so much. And now for our closing prayer. May we always remember to honor and respect each other, to listen deeply to those around us. May we daily recognize and acknowledge the far-reaching impacts of the residential school system on Indigenous peoples and their families. May we work together to heal the traumas of colonization inflicted on Indigenous communities, as well as on the air, the land, and the water around us. May we continue to listen deeply, to learn, and to take actions great and small to restore right relationship. Amen.